Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will start this presentation with the definition of activity-based costing. Activity-based costing, which is also known as ABC, is an accounting method used to assign overhead and indirect costs to the production of goods and services. With activity-based costing, the business identifies activities within the company and allocates the cost of these activities to each product and services proportionately, based on the estimate of usage. This allows the company to better understand and track the cost of the activities required for production.
As an example, we produce pencils and pens. Pens would require more overhead, like packaging, different types of packaging, than pencils. Using activity-based costing, we will assign the right overhead cost to the appropriate products. That way, overhead is higher for pens than pencils. There are 5 steps in total to implement activity-based costing. Step number 1 is to define the activities. Step number 2 is assignment of costs. Step number 3 is to calculate activity rates. Step number 4 is assign cost to the cost objects. And lastly, step number 5 is to prepare management reports.
The first step is to define the activities. Activities must be identified and grouped together into an activity pool. Activity pool are the supporting activities that tie to a product line or service. Next would be step 2. Step 2 is an assignment of costs. After we have identified the activities, costs are assigned to the activity pools. So for example, for human resources costs are assigned under indirect administrative costs. Next is step 3. Step 3 is to calculate the activity rates. The formula to calculate activity rates is overhead cost for the activity divided by total activity driver. After we have identified the activity cost, pools, and the activity rate, the next step, which is step number 4, is to assign the cost to the cost object. Once ABC costing analysis is complete, the last and final step, which is step number 5, is to prepare management reports. Thank you.
Hi, my name is NURUL. My matric number is 272970. I'm going to present about the advantages and disadvantages of the activity-based costing. First of all, to implement the activity-based costing, it can be challenging for any type of business. This is because the process of implementing this method may have several pros and cons. So here we go to one by one. For the part of advantages, we already know that activity-based costing result in more accurate product cost. ABC system will allow all the companies or firms to gain an accurate product cost or services costing because it focuses on the cause and effect linkage of the cost and activities in the context of producing goods. So how then activity-based costing works? They works by providing a more precise breakdown of indirect costs. Then they identify the activities in the companies and allocate the cost of these activities to the each product proportionally. As a result, it leading to more realistic product pricing decision, which can increase the sales strategy as well as sales revenue. Secondly, since the activity-based costing will allocate indirect costs for each product, the business process becomes clear. ABC costing brings improvement in the business process. Thus, it determines which process are doing well and which one is need to be improved. This is because the process of ABC will be able to identify the non-value added of activities. This will help in the proper allocation of resources for profitable activities. At the same time, it allows the management to should be able to provide more value to the continuous improvement for particular business process. Other than that, activity-based costing also provide information about the cost behavior. ABC can identify the real nature of the cost behavior. In the same time, help in reducing cost and wasteful cost product. With the ABC, managers are able to control many fixed overhead control control many fixed overhead costs by exercising more control over the activities which have caused these fixed overhead costs. And the last one is use of excess capacity and cost reduction. Under activity-based costing, products are charged for the cost of capacity they use, not for the cost of capacity they don't use. The unused cost of capacity usually treated as a period expenses. Through the process of pooling of activity costs and identification of cost drivers, ABC can lead a range of applications. At the moment, it will allow the management to identify unnecessary costs and wasteful product in order to use the resources in the productive manner. So next we go to the next slide. There's a number of disadvantages of activity-based costing. ABC is not perfect. That why is the reason why the companies not choose ABC method for their companies. Unlike some costing method, analysts can simply extract information from the ledgers. Instead, they need a lot of data, sometimes from multiple different departments, the use of software as it's implemented. First of all, ABC is quite expensive and complex. The bigger and longer lasting the ABC method, the more complex and expensive it takes to implement it. This is because ABC has numerous cost pools and multiple cost drivers, and therefore can be more complex than traditional product costing system that only use one activity. It can prove costly to manage ABC system. Secondly, measurement difficulties. The main cause of the limitation of any ABC system are measurement necessary to implement it. ABC system require management to estimate cost of activity pools and to identify and measure cost drivers to serve as cost allocation base. Even basic ABC system require many calculations to determine cost of product and services. These measurements are costly. Activity cost rate also need to update regularly. And the third one is ABC is not useful for smaller firms. ABC has different level of utility. Also, it likely that firms depend on the cost plus pricing can take advantages of ABC as it gives accurate product cost. But those firms who use market-based price may not favor ABC. And usually the smaller firms or companies are producing only one product or a few products. If so, the activity-based costing cannot be applied it. The level of technology and manufacturing environment prevailing in the different firms also affect to the application of ABC. The last one is data misinterpretation. ABC system report contain information including product margin that could be differ from the reported information for method on traditional cost. On some cases, ABC could be irrelevant in some decision-making scenario. For instance, the process of activity-based costing doesn't conform to standard of accounting, and this should not be utilized for external reporting. In the norm of traditional cost figure, the interpretation of ABC data together with the regular information on accounting could only be confusing and could lead to the decision-making error.
So, I will explain about the differences between traditional costing and activity-based costing. Traditional costing adds an average overhead rate to the direct cost of manufacturing products. The overhead rate gets applied on the basis of the cost driver, such as number of labor hours required to make a product. Traditional costing is best used when the overhead of a company is low compared to the direct cost of production. It gives reasonably accurate cost figures when the production volume is large, and changes in overhead costs do not create a substantial difference when calculating the cost of production. Traditional costing methods are inexpensive to implement. Companies usually use traditional costing for external reports because it is simpler and easier for outsiders to understand. However, it does not give managers an accurate picture of product cost because the application of the overhead burdens rate is arbitrary and applied equally to the cost of all products. So, overhead costs are not allocated to the products that actually consume the overhead activities. The traditional costing method is the best used for manufacturers that only make a few different products. So, for activity-based costing identifies all of the specific overheads operations related to the manufacture of each product. Not all products require the support of all overhead costs, so it is not reasonable to apply the same overhead cost to all products. Accountants created the ABC method to solve the problems of inaccuracy that result from the traditional costing approach. Managers need more accurate costing methods to determine which profits were actually profitable and which were not. A fundamental difference between traditional costing and ABC costing is that ABC methods expand the number of indirect cost pools that can be allocated to specific products. The traditional method takes one pool of a company's total overhead costs to allocate universally to all products. Activity-based costing is the most accurate, but it is also the most difficult and costly to implement. It is more suited to business with high overhead costs that manufacture products rather than companies that offer services. Companies that manufacture a large number of different products prefer an activity-based costing because it gives more accurate costs of each product. With activity-based allocation for overhead costs, it is easier to identify areas where expenses are being wasted on unprofitable products. Deciding between traditional or activity-based costing is not easy because the company choice should depend on the purpose of the reporting and who will see the information. Managers need accurate product costs and prefer to use an activity-based accounting system. Even though this system is more costly, it provides better information that will enable managers to make more profitable decisions in the long term. In other way, for external reporting, companies still use the traditional costing system, but it is becoming obsolete as outsiders demand more accurate information about business. So that's all the differences between traditional costing and ABC costing. So thank you.
A pupil we would like to ask where activity-based costing is used. Activity-based costing is the most helpful in manufacturing industry, where overhead costs are a very large portion of production costs. If you were to look at a list of companies using activity-based costing, you might be surprised to see it filled with familiar names. The introduction of automation and digitally controlled technology can reduce direct costs like labor, while increasing indirect costs like machine and program maintenance and upkeep, which would register as overheads. Activity-based costing is especially important in industries that produce custom material.
Hi, okay, so right now I will explain about the example of activity-based costing. Assume that there was a company called High Challenge Company that makes two products, which are touring bicycle and mountain bicycle. The touring bicycle product line is a high volume line, while the mountain bicycle is a low volume specialized product. In using activity-based costing, the company identified 4 activities that were important: cost drivers and cost driver used to allocate overhead. These activities were first, purchasing material; second, setting up machines when a new product was started; third, inspecting product; and lastly, operating machines. Accountants estimate the overhead and the volume of events for each activity. They estimate that the company is buying 100,000 material for which overhead costs of $200,000 per year are needed. For overhead costs involve salary for buying, inspecting, and storing material. Machines will have to be set up to a new product for 400 setup and $800,000 overhead. The organization will carry out 4,000 inspection and $400,000 overhead. Finally, $600,000 for 20,000 hours of the machine will be expensive. These estimates were made last year and will be used during all over the current year.
This is one example how we calculate activity cost rate using ABC method. Firstly, we need to know what is the activity basis and cost driver for activity basis, like here, purchasing material, pieces of material, machine setup, inspection, hours, and running machine hours. So how we calculate their rate? First, we need to know what is the formula. The formula is estimate overhead cost divided by estimate unit. For purchasing material, 200,000 divided by 100,000, we will get 2 per piece. And for machine setup, 800,000 divided by 400 setup, we will get 2,000 per setup. And for inspection, 400,000 divided by 4,000, we will get 100 per inspect hour. And for running machine, 600,000 divided by 20,000 machine hours, we will get 30 per machine hours. This is actual number of cost driver units for each two products, which is taurine and mountain. This is actual number of cost driver we use is in another part to calculate applied overhead cost.
So right now, how are we going to find the total overhead for both products? To find the total overhead, we need to multiplying the actual activity event for each product times the predetermined rated compounded earlier. As we all know, there was 4 activities that used to determine the total overhead for both products. For touring bicycle, the purchasing materials is 6,000 pieces times $2 per pieces, machine setup 10 setup times 2,000 per setup, inspection 200 hours times $100 per hour, running machines 1,500 hours at $30 per hour. That will be calculated in total overhead of $97,000. Next, for mountain bicycles, purchasing materials 4,000 pieces times $2 per pieces, machine setup 30 setup times $2,000 per setup, inspection 200 hour times $100 per hour, running machines 500 hours times $30 per hour. So, the total overhead for mountain bicycle is $103,000. Okay, now, let's say that the company also used traditional method to compare between both methods. They find out that traditional method will allocate $150,000 for touring bicycle and $50,000 for mountain bicycles. Notice how the total overhead for both method is the same, $200,000, but the amount allocated to each product is different. Overall, from this example, we can analyze more overhead is allocated to the lower volume mountain bicycles using activity-based costing. The mountain bicycles are allocated more overhead per unit, primarily because activity-based costing recognizes the need for more setup for mountain bicycles as for as many inspection hours for the more specialized mountain bicycles as for the high-volume touring bicycle. By failing to assign costs to all of the activity, touring bicycles were subsidizing mountain bicycles. Many companies have found themselves in a similar situation where they cannot accurately assigning their funds to respective overhead costs.
Examples that we can see are for activity-based costing. Many automotive companies use activity-based costing to determine their cost and pricing. For example, Ford decided the company needed this sort of determine specific look into individual cost step to see which step could be eliminated or improved. Chrysler has seen hundreds of millions of dollars saved using activity-based costing to identify and eliminate useless, inefficient, and redundant steps in its production, which has also significantly streamlined product development. Since car and truck manufacturing is an established industry, where the manufacturing process has many steps that combine to make the final product, activity-based costing is the ideal analysis as long as the company has the resource to implement it and follow through on the point it highlights.
Another big company that use activity-based costing is Coca-Cola. They use it to determine its price point. Coca-Cola offers a large portfolio of products and carries a huge amount of inventory, which can be a significant portion of production costs that it's often overlooked. Coca-Cola has used activity-based costing to evaluate the differences between its bigger, worldwide product and its specialty, regionalized product that it may not offer on the global market. This understanding of how production costs are different between established, familiar types and specialized types has enabled them to set price point in each market that ensure them significant profit.
Extension of activity-based costing. The concept behind activity-based costing can actually be implemented through a business to shape the company culture. This requires significant buy-in at every level, but can help a company better focus its resources and efforts, as well as identify portions of the day-to-day process that cost too much in time and resources are need to be improved. Activity-based management follows similar principles in that it looks at all the steps of a business process and determine relative costs for each in order to highlight areas where efficiency improvement can have a significant impact.
Now, you must be curious, what is the key to activity-based costing? The key to activity-based costing as a philosophy outside of the operational realms is focusing on which steps in any business process add value as compared to their costs. A purchasing department, for example, has set of steps which is receiving the purchase request, obtaining approval, placing the purchase order, ordering the material in question, sending payment and receive the item and record the receipt. Besides that, activity-based costing philosophy will create a cost for each step based on the salaries of employees involved and the times each step takes to be completed, and then we'll look at the cost of each step to determine where value is being wasted. For example, while approval of purchase requests may take only few seconds for each manager, if the entire approval process takes 2 weeks, that is considerable amount of cost to the company is due time waiting for the order to be placed. Or, as an external example, if the receiving process has to be done manually while everything else is automated, it might make sense for the company to look into the cost of automating that step as well, if ABC calculation show it as a significant expenses.
Activity-based costing allow a company to better break down the element of their business process that actually add cost, be it operational costs like machinery and manufacturing, or more administrative costs like interpersonal processes or company policy. The success of the process, however, depends on how the company evaluates and uses the data that come out of this type of accounting calculation. That's all. Thank you.